they'll shuffle up, get ready to rock and roll. 11-3 are the records for each of them. And one of them will be in the elimination rounds later this evening.
And this is going to be a tough cut for top 8 if you look back at those players to watch. Emma Handy had X3 as well, and I believe she was in 13th or 14th place. It's possible she's not even live for top 8 with a win here. We might have X3s miss, which is uncommon, but not unheard of at events of this size.
So for Andy in this matchup, the cards that matter, certainly Anafenza the foremost, 4 copies there, but that's not the end-all be-all. Remember, there are collected companies here, 4 of those. Some interesting cards to find, like Matter Shaper, Nissa, Vastwood Seer, Death Mist, Raptor, Sylvan Advocate, Warden of the First Tree. So a very different build here for Andy Ferguson. Again, he was in the sideboard with Nick Miller, so we will have a deck tech for you, and perhaps we'll see him later this evening in the elimination rounds.
Definitely committed to playing a longer game, not only with Collected Company, but some of the targets here, as you mentioned, Matter Shaper and Nissa, commitments to playing a much longer, much more attrition-based, much more value-oriented game.
Andy going to take a mulligan here while Brad is going to keep his opening hand. Now, important question here for you. Andy Ferguson wearing a leather coat.
Yep.
Tom Ross wears a leather jacket as well.
Okay.
Who wears it better?
You can't ask me to sign against Andy Ferguson. Can't do it. Won't engage with it.
Tom probably watching. Cannot be happy about this outcome.
Wears the jacket well. Great hair.
Very good hair.
Great facial hair.
Yep. Again, agree.
Great deck.
Agree again.
A stylistic player. We've seen some bluffs. He's got some angles shooting to his game. You know
who else likes to bluff?
Tom
Ross. That's right. They're cut from the same cloth. Yes, they are. Andy Ferguson going to take a look at his 6 cards now. He looks happy enough with these. He'll scry, leave it on top, it appears. Let's play some Magic. Bradley Carpenter starts things off with a Sunken Hollow. You know, if you're a player in this tournament like Andy Ferguson or anybody else, I think when you're sitting down across on the table from your opponent, you might just be assuming they're on 4-color rally now.
At this point, I mean, the most popular deck in day 2, about 20% of the field here, and piloted by some of the tour's top players.
A Flooded Strand from Bradley Carpenter is going to get a basic Plains. And I think we'll have a Jace on the way here in just a moment. Each player going to shuffle each other's deck, of course. And here is Jace for Bradley Carpenter. Over to Andy Ferguson we go. Let's see what his turn 2 play is going to be, assuming that he does have one outside of a land, which he's got plenty of, it appears. Alana Warwace, a Sylvan Advocate. Very popular card this weekend. Almost everyone that we've seen that's playing green, that's not playing Rally, has Sylvan Advocate in their deck.
And there's been a need for a while for a premium 2-drop 4 green. Snapping Gnarlid and Air of the Wilds, they're functional Magic cards, but they were more of a necessary evil in a deck like Abzan than they were cards you were really excited to play. Sylvan Advocate plays a lot better with sort of the want to be good in the short game, want to be good in the long game style of Abzan, and also synergizes very well with the creature lands.
A Jace activation there from Carpenter. He did discard a Windswept Heath. Now he's sacrificing a Windswept Heath. And now it's a Grim Horror Specs. Let's go back over to Andy Ferguson. See what he can figure out for this turn. Remember, Anafenza, one of the trump cards in this matchup.
Even though it's not as good as it used to be, it's still a prize here. And especially in this sort of game where Carpenter is opening up very strong here. Turn 2 Jace, Jace is not dead. He's got land drops, I believe, Collected Company in hand. A way for him to hopefully hang on in this game on Ferguson's side. If he has an Anafenza, Carpenter can't happen to answer it. And Carpenter can't really get very much going.
Ferguson going to start by sacrificing a Windswept Heath. a basic forest. And it appears a spell on the way here in just a moment. He'll go with Dramoka's command. He will fight, put a counter there, and he's looking to get in for 3 points of damage. Now, it's interesting because he has the opportunity to kill a Jace there, but killing a Jace allows Carpenter to draw a card because of Grim Horror Specs being on the battlefield. Felt that he was better off taking care of the Grim Horror Specs.
Not only does it allow Carpenter to draw a card off the Jace, it also allows Carpenter to draw a card off of any subsequent creature that Ferguson decides to kill. So it's not pretty to leave the Jace in play, but having to kill the Jace through Grim Horror Specs is probably worse.
Jace will transform, did discard a Jace, starts on 5 up to 6, slow down the Sylvan Advocate, and it's just really rough for Carpenter. He has nothing to do besides that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he looted and everything, and still just flooding out.
Ferguson, oddly enough, has Collective Companies in his deck, so you know that's on the top of his mind right now. Well, there's a Plains. That's land number 4 for him.
I hope Ferguson does the same frustrated sigh and pass with Collective Company in his hand.
Me too. A Collective Company sigh off. Oh, yeah, just nothing. Go. Just go.
We're just both flooding out so badly.
Here's a Collective Company from Bradley Carpenter. And a Collective Company from Andy. Shocking all around.
Yeah, they were both bluffing.
A Matter Reshaper and an Anafenza. Those are the cards that Ferguson's going to get. Now, I don't love responding.
I was about to say the same thing. The problem here now is that Carpenter's Reflector Mage, if he happens to find it, gets to take Anafenza off the battlefield.
And Sidisi's Faithful could do the exact same. Fortunately for Ferguson, it's just Nantuko Husk and Zillipore Cutthroat. So both players' Collective Companies have resolved, and now we head back Bradley Carpenter's way, who, because of Jace, can cast it yet again.
I would love to have the data on turn 2 Jace on the play that doesn't get killed. What's the win percentage of that person?
Probably relatively high.
Probably more than most 2-drops in Magic history.
Inclined to agree. Collective Company yet again as Jace falls down to 3. It's a good card to recast. Carpenter going to go with his Zillipore Cutthroat and Reflector Mage, and there is the problem card.
Yeah, before this slot Reflector Mage now occupies was held by something like Merciless Executioner or Fleshbag Marauder as the way of controlling the board, but you get into spots like this where Ferguson has multiple creatures in play, and that card doesn't mount for very much. Reflector Mage is precise even if the board comes up on the other side.
Now here's Sidisi's Faithful, exploit, bounce, that Matter Reshaper. Little drain in game because of the Zillipore Cutthroats, and Nantuko Husk is safe for takeoff. Just 2 damage here, as Carpenter has really built a board up over the past turn and a half. Back over to Ferguson we go, and Anafenza is not an option this turn for Andy. So Andy's got some real things to think about now, again, because Anafenza is not an option due to Reflector Mage, and he's behind on the board, and it's only going to get worse, too. Carpenter has built up a nice board here with Nantuko Husk, 2 Zillipore Cutthroats, Reflector Mage, Mana Base looks good, and that Jace that's on 3 counters.
I believe Rally in hand as well.
Yeah. It's looking tough.
Very good chance if Ferguson taps out for something like Siege Rhino that he just dies. Ferguson at least making some effort to get the Jace off the battlefield, but for Carpenter, that's an easy chump block, especially if he's planning to rally next turn regardless.
There's Deathmatch Raptor. And simply passing the turn back. There's Rally. Thumbs up. And, well, I think Andy Ferguson might be dead.
Yeah. Well, I thought he would be dead if he tapped out for Siege Rhino, and he didn't even get 3 life for his trouble with the Deathmatch Raptor. So I'd be surprised if he got it out of this turn.
Yep, and he's going to pick up those 2 creatures and those lands and call it a day. Brad Carpenter's going to win game number 1 here over Andy Ferguson. 4-color Rally, up a game over Obzon Company. A very popular deck here this weekend, and we're going to see a couple of copies in elimination rounds. I'm sure one of them could be Brad Carpenter. As we get ready to take a look at the sideboard here, see what Ferguson can figure out with 4 Ration Clerics, 3 Duress, 2 Silk Wrap, and some one-ofs here in Felidar Cub, Pitiless Horde, Infinite Obliteration, Warping Whale, Kalitas, Trader of Get, and Murderous Cut.
So he's light, obviously, on counter spells that can interact with the combo here. So I think that he's forced to bring in some copies of Duress to hope to snag those spells. I like the Silk Wraps in this matchup. Removal that exiles, more interaction with Jace early on in the game. Both very good things for Ferguson. The Kalitas can come in as well. It's not great for the same reason that Anafenza's not great anymore because of Reflector Mage, but it's still fine, and if he's backing it up with other things to pressure the hand like Duress, Kalitas might be able to stick, and that's probably going to do it. I think Infinite Obliteration is not great in this matchup, but Ferguson may bring it in.
The coats come off.
Yeah, it's time.
Just so you know, it's serious business time.
Business time.
2 Dispel, 3 Murderous Cut, 2 Anafenza the Foremost. In Islay, Eternal Pilgrim, 2 Duress, 2 Hallowed Moonlight, and 3 Ration Clerics for Brad Carpenter.
So we see a pretty common sideboarding here. You see the mixture of Duresses and Dispels come in to interact with sideboard cards. You want the Murderous Cuts for the same reason, Anafenza and Kalitas. It wouldn't surprise me if Islay came in as well as a hedge of Nantuko Husk getting hit with Infinite Obliteration.
Well, you see the options there for both players, and as they do sideboard, shuffle up, we'll be ready here for game number 2 in just a bit as Andy Ferguson will be on the play. Let's talk regionals, shall we?
Let's do it.
Well, we got an awesome play mat and plenty of information at go.starcitygames.com/regionals. And, of course, for regionals, free and exclusive play mat and token the first 200 players. But most important, I would say, are the SCG points that are involved with this because not a lot of places to get them anymore.
Yeah, it's tough to get the SCG points now. Only so many opportunities at Opens and Classics and the regional championships. If you're not interested in trying to get to the Players' Championship, it still comes with qualifications for the Invitational. And even if that doesn't interest you, large cash prizes up to $1,200 for first place. Go.starcitygames.com/regionals for more information. We have the venues here, so you can find the regional championship closest to you.
Plant your flag, February 6th, 2016. Play in those regional championships, get some SCG points, qualify for the Invitationals, and potentially the Players' Championship as we get ready here for game number 2 between Andy Ferguson and Brad Carpenter. Brad Carpenter, the player we're going to learn a little bit about here before game number 2 does begin. 23 years old, from St. Petersburg, Florida, 3 open top 8s, lead singer of a pop punk band, a fantasy football fanatic, and really wishes Taco Bell would See, sometimes I read these for the first time when they actually just come up, and apparently he's very passionate about Taco Bell, maybe as passionate about Taco Bell as Michael Majors is about Applebee's.
Do they deliver on the West Coast?
Unclear. I don't think so.
That would imply that they deliver on the West Coast.
Now, look, Taco Bell is fine. If you're going to do that to yourself, you have to get up and go get it. That's how I feel about Taco Bell. I think if that's they're not bringing that to you.
Most of the times that I want Taco Bell, I'm not good to drive, so
I understand.
It's not bad as a delivery service.
I understand what you're saying.
It's a lot of cross synergy there.
I do understand. And truthfully, if they did institute a delivery model, those drivers would probably get tipped pretty well.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good reasons.
Looks like Bradley Carpenter could be a budding entrepreneur if the pop punk band does not work out. Just saying. I could go for a cheesy gordita crunch. I don't know about you.
Not right now. Talk to me in, 7 hours. Might feel different. That's what I'm saying.
Bradley Carpenter, he's down to 6 cards. He'll keep. Underway for game number 2. He'll start things off with a Sunken Hollow. A Plains and a Llanowar Waste there for Ferguson before passing the turn back.
Llanowar Waste plus Matter Reshaper. Actually fixing 3 colors of mana here for Ferguson.
It's just good deck building. There's a Silk Wrap. There's a Caves of Koilos, more fixing. Pass the turn back over to Carpenter. Carpenter with a Flooded Strand and another copy of Jace. Going to make Ferguson pass the Jace test as Andy will untap and take his 4th turn. Windswept Heath to draw. There is the Matter Reshaper. There's a Windswept Heath. Pass that turn back over to Carpenter, who will sacrifice his Flooded Strand, fall down to 19. Jace is active now.
But at least Ferguson has a little something going on the battlefield, as opposed to before where Jace kind of was the first thing going on and accrued way too much of an advantage for Carpenter for Ferguson to come back from.
Canopy Vista, the weapon of choice there for Carpenter. There's an activation of Jace. Draw and discard. Dispel is what he's found. Keep in mind for Brad Carpenter, we mentioned the 3 open top 8s he's had. That's only been over the past handful of months since he's really started playing a lot again.
Yeah, I mean, he showed up to the tour, I feel, middle of last year roughly, and has been posting a lot of good results.
Yeah. And Tuco Hust down. El Schussner will allow Carpenter to draw a card. He's got a land to play as well in a swamp. And kick it back over to Ferguson, who will sacrifice a Windswept Heath, fall down to 19, and we got a land on the way. He'll go with the Canopy Vista himself. Of course, now we have people chiming in, letting us know that Taco Bell does deliver. Rudy Brisca, someone who I believe is fairly passionate about Taco Bell, if memory serves, from his Facebook, knew right away that Taco Bell does deliver in some places on the East Coast. Follow-up sentence, Taco Bell is delicious. But is it nutritious? Debatable.
I mean, you have to even take a wider lens and ask, is it food?
Yeah.
Which is a much deeper philosophical question.
My friends and I like to say that fast food is engineered to taste good.
Right.
That's how we look at it. There's a Sylvan Advocate.
It displays both the blessing and curses of technology.
Correct.
It would not be possible without technology. That's a positive. Mm-hmm. It would also not be possible without technology. It's a negative. That's a strike.
Is that cheese? Good question.
Why? So just you have to pull the lens even further back.
Mm-hmm. And I've just been informed that Taco Bell now will be sponsoring the SCG Tour.
Oh, great.
And delivering to all East Coast venues. So that's good news for Brad Carpenter. Here's Eiley, Eternal Pilgrim, and a passing of the turn. Carpenter missing some land drops here, but still operating just fine.
As long as Jace stays on the battlefield, it's not going to be all that bad for him. He's going to have opportunities to fix his draws, start flashbacking spells, and honestly, he's doing fine on the board as it stands. There's a lot of pressure on Ferguson in the matchup to get ahead on the board, ideally find an Anafenza, and force Carpenter to flounder around with less efficient creatures. If Ferguson can't even get the first thing going, even if Carpenter's missing land drops or missing critical pieces of the puzzle, the rest of it doesn't really matter all that much.
And back to Ferguson we're going to go, as now we are being informed quite a bit on Twitter that Taco Bell does deliver. If you go to tacobell.com, and who would go to that website, you've asked, we're delivering.
Okay.
That's the slogan. First they brought us breakfast so that we could be breakfast defectors like James Harden.
Yes.
And now they deliver. What's next?
It's the power move. Right? It's got the egg, cheese.
Mm-hmm. Egg is in quotes, cheese is in quotes.
I am not a natural salesman for a number of reasons. You know this. I could perform a better pitch than James Harden. I would do you better than that.
Yeah. Well, it's appreciated because James didn't try very hard in that commercial.
Or he might have been trying as hard as possible.
Here comes some attacks from Andy Ferguson. Elvish Visionary going to block real fast because that's the 4th card in the graveyard. Now Jace can draw and discard and transform.
And interesting decision there from Ferguson. Elects not to get rid of the Jace. I think the philosophy here is, well, there's no spells in Carpenter's graveyard to begin with, so he can't get too hung up on it. Also, he just needs to start attacking and closing out the game as fast as he can, and Eiley's an effective blocker. So as long as Carpenter doesn't have much going on in the way with spells, let him have the Jace and try to get some pressure going.
Carpenter does sacrifice that Windswept Heath for a Prairie Stream. Well, let's see what's next here for Brad. Time to draw and discard. Transform Jace. The discard was a Flooded Stream. And now Jace will start on 5 up to 6, slow down the Sylvan Advocate. Reflector Mage is here. Matter Shaper is going to disappear. We're not going to see that one for a turn or two. Going to go back to Andy Ferguson, though. I believe Den Protector the draw now.
It's a nice one, although Ferguson also working with very little in the graveyard.
Den Protector's kind of fallen off a cliff recently. It was a really powerful card for a little while there, but not seeing very much of it this weekend. Andy going to test the waters there of the Sylvan Advocate. Now, it is a 4-power creature, but Jace knocked it down to a 2-power creature.
But Ferguson loves to... The attacks that are free just to test if your opponent's paying attention / maybe you're bluffing an Abzan Charm they care about, Ferguson never misses those attacks. I've never seen him miss one of those attacks once. If he has a 2/2 and you have a Johnny offshoot, he's not forgetting to try.
Yeah.
It's automatic for him.
I got to know.
The play doesn't have to work that often for it to be great. It has to work once, basically.
Elvish Visionary is going to draw Carpenter a card. Looks like a couple copies of Reflector Mage in his hand now. Jace is up to 7. Slow down the Advocate. There's Jace. Carpenter's starting to build up a board like Rally likes to do. Here's Collected Company. Carpenter has Dispel.
And Ferguson could have done this last turn, but did not cast the Collected Company, I assume, out of respect for Dispel. Then he drew Den Protector. Now he's happy to do it. Can force it through that way.
And he can actually unmegamorph Den Protector right now and cast Collected Company on his main phase, and that's what you might see him do. So there's Den Protector.
That play from Ferguson, pretty savvy. I think a lot of people would have just fired off the Collected Company there. But he sensed Dispel and waited until he had backup before he was willing to cast it.
So Den Protector gets counter, of course. Now here is a main phase Collected Company, since Dispel is down. Let's take a look at those top 6. See what he does fine. Matter Shaper's in there. Drunk Command you can't take. Neither can you take Hissing Quagmire. Death Misraptor however you can. So the 2 creatures, pretty easy selection here for Ferguson.
Ferguson's found a lot of really powerful 3-drops put in this deck.
Yep.
Alongside Collected Company. No, it's kind of silly to say, but all of his Collected Companies have been reactions of, okay, well, that's 7 power plus some card advantage. There's 6 power plus a lot of staying power against removal. They don't really miss.
Carpenter's going to fall down to 9. Up goes Jace. Den Protector's going to slow down now, but that means the Advocate's good to go. And now here's an activation of Jace. Carpenter clearly needs some help with how he's playing this game.
Well, he hasn't found any of the linchpin spells. And in the absence of that, he's just trying to brawl. And Ferguson's deck, for a while there, Carpenter was keeping his head above water with these Reflector Mages. But now Ferguson, with the help of Collected Company, with making his land drops with Sylvan Advocate, he's just putting so much power into play that you're starting to see the discrepancy in the quality between the 2 creatures.
Zulaport Cutthroat down. Now Jace does transform, loses the other Jace. Tick up, slow down. Either the Advocate or the Death Misraptor. He's going to go with the Advocate.
But using a Jace that's at that much loyalty, then looting and using a Jace again just to plus, this is a sign that the Carpenter feels he's up against the ropes a little bit here. And he's trying to buy as much time as possible to find Collected Company or rally the Ancestors.
Matter Shaper does get bounced there by Reflector Mage. Now here's Sadi, who's faithful. That's going to bounce too. Away goes Death Misraptor. But Carpenter with only 1 card in hand and no spells in the graveyard.
Yep.
So he's hoping to peel a Collected Company, maybe a rally, depending on how happy he is with his graveyard. And Ferguson has the opportunity here to get this game. he's got a shot, that's for sure.
You know, these reflector majors have bought Carpenter a whole lot of time. Way more time than something like Fleshbag Marauder would have purchased.
Yeah, I think Fleshbag Marauders and Merciless Execution, I think those days are maybe over for this deck. Maybe 1 or 2 in the sideboard. That's about it. Reflector Mage has really shown how powerful it can be, and we can't forget about that Anafenza as well. Such a great answer to that card. Remember, this is the game where Ferguson played that very early on, and it got bounced by Reflector Mage. But then he's done a nice job of building up a board, which he has here, and eventually he'll get to be able to start attacking again as we head back over to Bradley Carpenter. Evolving Wilds is the land. And now there's an Nantuko Husk. Pass the turn back.
And now Carpenter is officially on empty, facing down Anafenza, and a vastly superior board on Ferguson's side.
Now, we may never see Anafenza attack, but it's text very relevant right now given Carpenter's board.
Ferguson's not really straining to find a lot of good attackers here. He has Sylvan Advocate, very hard to block here. Death Misraptor, hard to block. The Shambling Vent, hard to block here. He doesn't have to commit the Anafenza to any sort of attacks if he thinks there's a risk of losing Anafenza. If he has another copy of Anafenza, he should be very aggressive trying to trade it off, because Carpenter will take any opportunity to block and trade with Anafenza. And then you can deploy your second copy.
Here comes Death Misraptor. And it looks like no blocks there from Carpenter. A couple copies of Matter Reshaper. And just going to pass the turn back.
And you see Carpenter there elect not to chump block, I think because of the Anafenza. He wants an opportunity to get Anafenza off the battlefield, then he can jump block at the Visionary in the graveyard, and then a rally down the line is more significant.
Well, Evolving Wilds will allow Carpenter to find a land. Again, he's empty-handed, so it's time to untap and draw a good one. But the company might be the best of the bunch. Did not get a great look at what he drew, however. He is already reorganizing his mana. It's an Elvish Visionary. That's redraws. Next up, Sidisi's Faithful. Will he exploit? Looks like the answer is no. Just going to be out there to play a little defense. Jace targets Den Protector and pass the turn back. Ferguson will draw. Remember, Sylvan Advocate is online, which means Shambling Vent is a 4/5.
And there's a lot of pressure on these attacks here from Ferguson because he cannot afford to give Carpenter one extra turn. There's so many draws that are disastrous for him right now. So even though the board is clogged, he's kind of got to pull it apart a little bit and see, you know, can I get in with the Den Protector? Are the Matter Reshapers eligible to attack? Those are probably safe to attack with regardless, because if they die, it's not the end of the world. But Ferguson can't be content here to just keep plugging along with the Death Misraptor. He's got to try to find the way to get the most out of these attacks.
I think that's why you're seeing him activate a Shambling Vent here, because he's got to get some work done.
Fortunately for him, the size on Carpenter's creatures is so small that he's not at risk of losing very much in combat.
And Offense is going to grant a counter over to Den Protector. It's a 2-power creature right now because of the Jace activation. And Sylvan Advocate does not tap to attack a non-bow with Anafenza.
Well, fortunately, Ferguson has no end of eligible things to put a counter on.
Yes. Now it's time for Carpenter to decide how to block here. You see he's at 6, Andy Ferguson at 15. But I'm not sure how good, I mean, whatever blocks are going to happen here, it's going to keep Carpenter probably alive through the turn, but he's going to lose a lot of stuff, and he loses it for good.
Yes. Well, his graveyard is still pretty flush. He's got the ability to come back here, I think, if he's able to rip a rally. His graveyard's pretty stocked, but yes, he's definitely losing some punch here.
So Carpenter's going to figure out how he wants to block with these creatures. Ferguson's likely to gain a little bit of life in the exchange because of the Shambling Vent, though I suppose Carpenter could sacrifice the Elvish Visionary that's blocking the Shambling Vent to an Antuco Husk to prevent the life gain, though life gain might not be the biggest concern right now for Carpenter.
At this point, Carpenter can't really make any inroads on the board. He's just got to basically chump block, save as much life as possible, and hope that the top of his deck yields rally. At this stage, I don't even think Collected Company is going to be worth a whole lot. He's so far behind on the board.
I think we're past the Collected Company part of this game. And Ferguson even has some things to play in Sylvan Advocate after combat. So big draw, got to be rally basically. Yeah, thumbing through the graveyard a little bit. Uh-oh. That's not a rally, and he will concede the game. So Andy Ferguson's going to win game number 2 here over Brad Carpenter. Obzon Company, 4-color rally. Get ready for game number 3. Again, the winner of this match, elimination rounds later this evening.
Yeah, you saw without having access to Collected Company or Rally the Ancestors, Carpenter was able to buy a lot of time with Fletcher Mage, but eventually the board became unmanageable. Ferguson's creatures so big, so durable, so good at winning in combat that Carpenter bought some time, but he could never really make any progress.
These players already shuffling up here for game number 3. Brad Carpenter will be on the play. So let's talk about our creature collection here at Star City Games, in which we've got Grizzly Brand on playmat, slaves, and player bundles. Go to starcitygames.com/creature collection for information about that. That already has a name. What needs a name is the zebra.
Yeah. So, again, I'm suggesting we choose something gender neutral because the gender's unclear. Sometimes with the animals, it's a little more clear. Magus the Moo's got udders. Udders means female.
Understand.
Gender neutral here. That's why I suggested Oreo before. I acknowledge not a great name, open suggestions, but, you know, that's not it.
You're a fan of Oreo. I'm a fan of Stripe.
Stripes is good. I would go with Stripes.
Stripes, plural?
Stripes.
Stripes the zebra on playmat, sleeves, and player bundles. Go to starcitygames.com/creature collection. But we're always taking recommendations if you haven't.
But most of them have been quite poor.
True.
We haven't had anything better yet, in my opinion, than Stripes or Oreo, so we're still searching. But give it to us. Give us your best shot. Give us better than your best shot.
Yeah.
Because so far that's just not been close. Good enough for us to suggest on the air.
Game number 3 about to make their way. And we take the naming of our creature collection animals very seriously.
We do.
This is not a joke.
It's a craft. It's a name. It's a name.
Yeah.
They have to carry with it for the rest of their animatronic life. They get emblazoned on playmat sleeves. Matters.
Exactly. It does matter.
Matters.
So we need you as a community to help us in naming our animals. But as Patrick has mentioned, unfortunately, not off to a great start.
Let's be honest with each other. It hasn't been great so far. And I'm not saying that I'm dealing out aces here either. I haven't been. I don't have a great name. Oreo is mediocre at best, but that's still the best suggestion thus far. I know we can do better.
You know what's not mediocre? The Orzhov Cookie Crumble.
That was not mediocre.
Which has Oreos in it.
Yeah.
So
we are, after this round, we are getting some ice cream. We are going to get some ice cream.
It's going to be really good again.
Yeah. Cannot wait.
Shout out to Brewsters, who in their name, it says real ice cream, as opposed to what exactly?
Well, we can take, again, we can take the lens back a little bit, widen it, and talk about food in quotes that you typically purchase. It's a lot of, there's probably, the average ice cream that you buy at the grocery store probably contains more petroleum products than you'd like to believe.
That's depressing. That's just depressing. You've just brought the whole broadcast down into a somber mood.
That's my role here.
Yeah.
You didn't have to bring me back for 2016. We could have just walked off stage left. But no, that's not how this went down. So you got to live with this. And all of you listening have to live with this as well.
Canopy Vista here for Brad. Shambling bed for Andy. We'll see what comes next here for Mr. Carpenter as we try to lighten the mood a little bit with some more magic.
Telling you right now, go to the grocery store, find the generic brand tub of ice cream there, look at the ingredients. Want you to read the ingredients, tell me how many things you read on there there are words you do not recognize from anywhere else.
It's like looking at an expedition.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that?
A polluted delta here.
I thought it was just supposed to be like milk and butter and sugar, right? Nope.
Nope. Nope.
No, it's not.
It's actually a Flutterstrand. My apologies.
Go to Taco Bell and go get some ice cream. Tell me what you got in there.
Please don't. We're going to lose our audience quick if they do what you're suggesting. There's a silk wrap. Down goes Jace. Let's see what comes next here for Brad Carpenter. Maybe Jace was integral to his hand working. We've seen that actually a lot with Four Color Rally this weekend. If you kill the Jace, sometimes they just don't have a third land.
This story has been repeated multiple times here where a Jace is killed, and Carpenter has a backup Jace, putting Ferguson to the test again. The Jace gets killed, they can't get to a payoff card, and the rest of their hand are 2/3s for 3 and just creatures that don't really do very much. Jace is often the thing that allows Rally to be powerful earlier in the game than would otherwise be able to. It's also the thing that allows you to hunt for Collected Company when your hand's lacking it. When you're without Jace and your hand's full of creatures, we saw what happened in the second game. Even with Carpenter able to get a Jace going, he was only able to find the creatures, and Ferguson was able to break up the synergies, and then it's just who's got better stats, and Obsound's going to win that battle against Rally every single time.
Windswept Teeth, a Forest, and a Deathmist Raptor for Andy Ferguson, an activation of Jace here from Bradley Carpenter on his 4th turn. He'll draw and discard. This will be the second card that goes into his graveyard, so a little bit away from Jace, maybe a turn or so, as Elvish Visionary bites the dust. A polluted Delta here from Carpenter. And now a Catacomb Sifter, which brings an Eldrazi Sign along with it. That'll be Carpenter's turn, and now it looks like we're going to go back to Ferguson. Deathmist Raptor coming on in. Polluted Delta will be sacrificed here by Brad. Some of these zebra names that are rolling in here, it's not good.
The good news is people are giving their best effort. The bad news is people are giving their best effort.
Tom Ross has come here with Orzuvs. Orzuvs?
Okay.
I don't hate that. That's not bad. Zippy? Zippy's not bad because, you know, alliteration, that's important. Here's a morph. Could be anything, likely to be a den protector.
Maybe zebras just aren't conducive to having good nicknames.
That's the attitude of a quitter.
Yes, it is.
And I don't allow that here in the booth. Just gonna give up. Your opponent didn't. I didn't play a spell, Scott. You can't just quit. Okay, you can't just quit. Okay, and neither can the community. Zebra the zebra. Yeah. We have our winner. Carpenter has found a copy of Collected Company, by the way. He's just trying to figure out what he's going to discard with Jace.
Naming zebras might be the kitchen finks of Magic. Just causes me to concede on the spot.
Yeah. Here's a main phase Collected Company. Carpenter will take a look at the top 6 cards. We'll see if he can find 2 creatures to put into play. Elvish Visionary. And then Tuco Husk will join the battlefield. Apparently there's a zebra in a movie called Racing Stripes, I think. Maybe we can just steal and get sued.
I must have missed the premiere of that one.
probably out on it's probably out on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
If you'd like to check it out. VHS.
Yeah, if someone can loan me the VHS.
Andy Ferguson starting to get himself in some trouble here, I think.
Well,
Jace is still active. Husk is out there.
And if he can't kill the Jace, and there's reason to suspect he can't because he would have killed it a while ago, that Jace is going to flip next turn, and there's going to be another collected company, and then it might not even matter if Carpenter never finds Rally because the board just might become unmanageable.
Ferguson's got to find something like a Dramoka's Command or a Silk Wrap, I think. Elvish Visionary is going to block Deathmist Raptor. Elvish Visionary will be sacrificed to Nantuko Husk, which means Catacomb Sifter will allow for a Scry. Bit of a deep breath there from Ferguson. Here's a Sylvan Advocate. And there's an Eiley, Eternal Pilgrim, and a passing of the turn.
This is the problem here when you're playing against 4-color Rally. You can only have so much creature removal in your deck because if you have too much removal, the game just slows down and eventually Rally burrs you. But if you fail to answer the Jace test, this is going to happen pretty frequently. You need some removal, but not too much removal, and it's hard to thread that needle.
Notable Star City Games writer Chris Lansdale is really getting frustrated that we won't announce his zebra name. Zebra Dat. That's like Obsidat, but it's got zebra.
So I went to this well, too. I went to the, all right, zebras are black and white.
Okay.
Is there an Orzhov joke to be had here somewhere?
So Obsidat, so Obzebradat. It doesn't really roll off the tongue there. I'm not sure how anyone's supposed to say that.
Got to give this some more thought.
Yeah. The effort I appreciate. I understand where you're going here.
You know, is there an Orzhov Pontiff pun somewhere? I was in the recesses of my mind trying to think of something. I didn't have it, but that's where I went to. So Chris is on the right track. If there's a sweet name, it's got to be there somewhere.
For Bradley's turn, by the way, activate Jace, draw, discard, transform. Recast Collected Company, Sidisi's Faithful, and another Jace. Exploit the Sidisi's Faithful, bounce. Another Jace is out there as well, along with Nantuko Husk and Catacomb Sifter. But that was not the best Collected Company we've ever seen.
No, that's not the lock here. I mean, if you had something like Grim Horror Specs, Catacomb Sifter come off, that might be too much. Not immediately for Ferguson, but it would wear him down too much. This is a survivable Collected Company. Ferguson can keep playing through this.
And Sidisi's Faithful bounced Eiley. So Ferguson can still actually get some work done, and Deathmist Raptor's still a plenty fine attacker. Now that morph, we actually don't know what that is. We joke and we say it's Den Protector most times, but he actually has Deathmist Raptor in his deck. So it could also be Deathmist Raptor.
Well, he also has really nothing of value to get back unless he really wants land number 6. It looks like he's doing that now.
Okay.
It's also going to say he has some incentive to sit tight on the morph in case something happens to his Deathmist Raptor, he can get it right back.
Well, he actually does have some incentive for land number 6 because it turns on Sylvan Advocate.
Yes.
Which means also it turns on Shambling Vent and the Hissing Quagmire that he has as lands. And now he can maybe fire up one of those creature lands and starting to check Brad Carpenter's life total.
Yeah, I mean, he can just start bashing here, get the Jace off the table, and at least force some challenging blocks for Carpenter.
There's Sylvan Advocate. Been a star of the show here this weekend.
And for the Verkus's build of the deck that's trying to go a little bit longer, has Collected Company and more powerful 3s, this card's even better here than it has been in the other builds of Obzon Aggro, because he's naturally trying to go a lot longer than the Obzon decks we've had on camera earlier.
Little over 7 minutes left in the match, as Ferguson's going to come into the red zone with all the creatures. And though Carpenter has resolved 2 Collected Companies, neither one of them was great. And he's in a little bit of trouble right now as Ferguson's going to rearrange his lands, try to represent some different things. Carpenter's going to start by sacrificing Evolving Wilds. And in case you're wondering, all of the creatures are going at Brad. None of them are going at Jace right now.
And Andy's logic here might be, well, the only thing Jace is doing next turn is plussing to -2/-0. There's not another spell of note in the graveyard, so I don't have to worry about the turn after that. And it would require a lot of effort to attack this Jace, so better serve just trying to get this game over with inside of 2 turns if possible.
A forest there for Carpenter. And as Carpenter shuffles, he's probably figuring out where he wants to block, as we've just been given Orzhov Pony.
It's not a pony.
It's not a pony. It's a zebra. I might take away everyone's Twitter rights moving forward.
You indulged these people in the first place. You can't be the one to take it back.
It is my own fault. Orzhov Ponthoof.
There we go. There we go. There, that is it. Who got that one?
That's John Murphy on Twitter.
Yeah. There you go.
Orzhov Ponthoof. Hashtag name the zebra. We may have found a winner.
That's it.
After having to work through who knows what. I might be okay with that. Orzhov Ponthoof?
Damn, that is good.
I might be all right with that. You see,
all right.
Catacomb Sifter is going to jump in front of the Sylvan Advocate.
And you can see Carpenter's hand without a payoff card here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's, again, floundering just with his creatures.
And I think the plan for Brad, and saw Jamoka's command get cast as well, was to maybe activate the new Jace to get a little deeper in the deck, but that got killed. And so, as you mentioned, he's in some real trouble without a payoff card here, because it does not look like he has Rally the Ancestors in hand. And if it's just about playing creatures, well, Ferguson's got the better creatures right now. So there's a Windswept Heath.
This is another place where Sylvan Advocate's been very good. You see a lot of the time with cards like Snapping Gnarlid, Heir of the Wilds, they aren't appreciably better than the 3-mana creatures that Rally is casting. Sylvan Advocates, once we get to turn 6, they're a lot better than the creatures that Carpenter are putting on the table. It's putting a lot more pressure on than the conventional 2-drops would have been able to do. Same thing is true of Hangerback Walker, which is another card that sometimes you see in these Abzan decks. Carpenter is under so much more pressure than he would typically be because Sylvan Advocate's adding way more to the board than most of the 2-drops afforded to Abzan.
Carpenter going to reload. Catacomb Sifter, Eldrazi Scion, Jace. He already had Husk, and then Jace went up, and they targeted Den Protector. So Den Protector now is just going to be a 2-power creature. And Ferguson's still trying to figure out how he's going to slog his way through this board.
Yeah, the downside here for Ferguson is that Carpenter's graveyard is still up and running, so Catacomb Sifter is going to get the opportunity to scry a lot if Ferguson moves into combat and any sort of trades or trump blocks occur.
The only thing we don't have a great look at is what Andy Ferguson's working with in his hand. But he's built up a pretty nice board here, and he's just trying to figure out how he can just get through all this nonsense.
Well, there's also the question of can you do it in such a way to minimize the number of scries? It's unavoidable. He's probably going to, unless he has Anafenza that he can play before combat, but I think we would have seen it by now. He's going to just have to push in. Carpenter's going to make whatever trades he wants to, or whatever chump blocks he wants to, and there's no real way to avoid all the scries from occurring.
Whatever he's going to do, he's going to have to decide quick. Because we've got under 2:30 left in the match. Well, here come the beatdowns. As you mentioned, the concern here are the scries.
Yes.
Because ideally, this black cloud over the game is Rally the Ancestors.
And you can see the chump blocks here that are occurring here.
The sacrificing of the Windswept Heath, too.
Well, on top of the sacrificing of the Windswept Heath, you see that Carpenter's keeping Jace. Jace is, at the worst, one more draw to something big. So Carpenter here acknowledges the severity of the situation. He knows he's on, essentially, Rally and maybe Company or Bust, and that Jace is more valuable than any other creature in play at this stage.
Standard of the players. That is the end of your round 15. Please complete the current.
Well, we're going to have some scries here in just a bit. Nantuko Husk is going to eat that Eldrazi Scion. Husk is going to turn into a 4/4. Top card goes to the bottom. Catacomb Sifter. That'll get sacrificed. Husk will eat that Sylvan Advocate. More creatures here from Ferguson and Death Mist Raptor. It's not pretty, but it might be good enough to get it done.
Yeah,
and there's a morph.
All at this point Ferguson can do is cross his fingers and hope to avoid the worst of it.
Carpenter will draw. Didn't look like a rally to me. Jace is up to 4. Here's an activation of that Jace. Draw a card. I don't think it's a rally again. Now, I think he might get one more turn, maybe.
Yeah, it depends on the leftovers on Ferguson's hand, but he's coming across for a lot of damage next turn.
2 lands in Flooded Strand and Evolving Wilds, and a Zilliport Cutthroat, I believe. This Jace is going to transform. Other one's going to bite the dust. Up to 6. You saw the first one slow down Den Protector. The second one's going to slow down the Morph. There's Zilliport Cutthroat. Carpenter with 1 card left in hand. He can try to bluff a Collected Company, but I don't think it's going to stop Ferguson from attacking with as many creatures as it can.
And I believe we have just hit turn 0.
We have. Andy is turn 0. He'll also be turns 2 and 4. For Bradley Carpenter, he'll be turns 1, 3, and 5, assuming he gets them. Ferguson going to try to figure out how to get this one over with.
Because if he can find a way to get it done this turn, it's so much better than passing.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want him to draw another card.
One more draw step for Carpenter if you can avoid it.
Yeah. No more cards, please. Because if Carpenter draws Rally, he probably just wins immediately.
Right, with Ferguson on 15 here.
That's the thing. And if you're Andy here, you see a Husk and a Zilliport Cutthroat on the battlefield, so that puts Carpenter at kind of a virtual 12, I would say. Likely 11, but let's say it's 12 just because. And then maybe you count Collected Company into the equation, but if there's no Collected Company, I think you're just clear for takeoff. Now, Ferguson, I believe, drew a copy of Duress.
Well, the only way that I see Duress being helpful this turn is if he's worried about Dispel, if he wanted to get back Dromoka's command with his Den Protector and do something. Because he saw Dispel last game.
The other thing to note, though, however, is that he does not have a ton of black mana. So if he wants to fire up Hissing Quagmire or Shambling Vet, it requires the black mana that he has that matters. So he can't do something like Duress and fire up a creature land.
Yeah, he also can't do Den Protect, Unmorph Den Protector, get back something, do something, and also fire up one of the creature lands.
Exactly.
He's a little short on mana to do everything he wants.
He'll start with Duress.
But he can Duress and Dromoka's command.
Yes. It's a land for Carpenter. Maybe that makes things easier here for Ferguson. Remember, Jace has slowed down 2 creatures. And then there are 2 blockers, so maybe it's not a lethal attack this turn. Den Protector is almost certainly what that morph is. So it will unmegamorph. It'll get a counter. We'll find out what it's going to return.
I mean, I assume this is Dromoka's command to fight down the Nantuko Husk.
Here is Dromoka's command. Counter on that Den Protector. Maybe, yes.
I suppose it's more efficient to fight the Zilliport Cutthroat first.
Sure. Carpenter gets a gain of life. He's up to 11. Now, the Den Protectors that are out there have both been targeted by Jaces over the past turn, so they're 2 power creatures. So the biggest creature is Sylvan Advocate, so that's 3, 6, 7, 8. Oh, my. Is that 10? Because if he blocks the Sylvan Advocate with an Nantuko Husk, Death Mist Raptors come across for 6.
Yeah,
the Den Protectors come across for 2 each. That's 10, not 11. So everything attacks. Yep.
Yeah, there's no way to avoid giving the one more draw.
Oh, boy. All right, Brad, turn one.
Big draw coming.
How do we do? Going to slow roll himself a little bit. It's a plains, and that's not going to do it. Andy Ferguson's going to win this match over Brad Carpenter, 2-1. Obzon Company will take care of 4-color rally, and it looks like Andy Ferguson is into the elimination round.